Calaroga Shark Media.
Hey there, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. I did watch Ronny Chieng's special, and it's really good. Now, let me tell you why I liked it. Ronny is a great storyteller and top of mind. So right before I recorded this, I just recorded my end of the year rankings. So let me double sidebar here. First of all, I've been having a lot of voice problems lately as you've been listening. Today, my voice seems strong. This is the 4th straight episode of Daily Comedy News I'm recording, and the voice is holding up thanks to the help of a large iced coffee with caramel and milk, and you can support the show at buymeacoffee.com/dailycomedynews. But that's not why I bring it up. I'm just happy that I have the voice to record all these things. So I have Ronny up on my list. I have him way up on the list, but I don't agree with Jason's in a minute. Is not the #1 special of the year. That said, I don't think Jason is crazy, so tune in on December 27th for my complete list. But as I recorded those lists, I was talking about specifically, I'll name names, Adrian Appalucci's special. And my problem with Adrian's special is I don't believe any of the underlying premises at all. They're funny stories, but I need a little bit of reality. Like, she's telling these stories, and I don't believe anything she said actually happened. I could be wrong, but personally, I didn't believe it. Now, as I'm watching Ronny, and he does that big opening chunk about freezing his wife's eggs, and it's a long chunk, I believe the underlying story actually happened. Are the details exaggerated for comedic effect? Sure, but I don't feel like he sat at a desk and said, okay, let me just totally make up a half-hour story and tell it well. Perhaps he did, but I believe the underlying story. So he's a great storyteller, and as he tells the stories, he will drop in tags. So that's like, after a joke, you just say like one more short thing. And I never saw his tags coming, and they're all really funny. I've talked about on this podcast how I have Emperor of Rome syndrome, and I'll be like, oh yeah, that's really funny, but I don't actually laugh. I laughed at Ronny Chieng's special, so I like that one a lot. High recommend, but I won't tell you how far up the list. You'll have to listen on the 27th, 28th, and 29th for the breakdowns of those. Do you like Nate Bargatze? Because if you don't, you might as well check out today. Nate's PR team should play Nikki Glazer's PR team in the PR team Super Bowl this weekend because they are both absolutely flooring it. I don't recall seeing a push to this effect. On Tuesday, Nate got a New York Times article, a Washington Post article, and a Hollywood Reporter article. All this to promote his Netflix special on Christmas Eve. And also tonight is Nate Bargatze's Nashville Christmas on CBS, 9 o'clock. So one thing we know about the special is, the George Washington bit he's done on the 2 episodes of SNL. He's doing a version of that, but he's dressed as an angel. One of the jokes we see in the trailer is he says, let this day be called Christmas and let it be celebrated each year by gathering with family, by doing goodwill in his name, and by putting a big pine tree in your house. God commands the pine tree shall be decorated with glittering glass ornaments of incredible beauty, also with garbage that your children make at school. Now, before you feel bad for the SNL people being ripped off, Lorne Michaels is producing this special, even though it's on CBS, which is interesting that it's on CBS, right? SNL cast members Ashley Padilla and Mikey Day appear in the sketch as Mary and Joseph, so it's not like Nate is thieving from SNL. Nate Bargatze's Nashville Christmas will feature a mix of stand-up comedy, pre-taped comedy shorts, sketches, and musical performances. CBS says the special spotlights the heart and spirit of Nashville during the holiday season and highlighting family fun and feel-good moments. In a statement, Nate said, I want to make a great show for families to gather around and watch together, and I couldn't be in better hands with this team. Some of his press, he said he met his wife Laura while waiting tables at Applebee's in Nashville. I loved her sense of humor and laugh. We married in 2006 on Friday the 13th. His favorite spot at home, I have a golf simulator room that I added onto the house. His goal for stand-up is to be funny on stage without saying things that will embarrass or upset his parents. And his pre-stage mantra, I remind myself that the night's not about me, it's about the audience. Then I go out determined to make them have fun. All right, like I said, I got a lot of Nate today, so if you're not into Nate, you should just bail. Let's start with the Washington Post, and the headline, Nate Bargatze wants to be the Walmart of comedy. They write, Nate loves fast food, he loves big box stores and the suburbs and TNT marathons of Die Hard. He finds felicity in the familiar, comfort in the caloric, originality in the ordinary. Somebody worked hard on that opener. The first quote we get from Nate is, I had McDonald's last night. They caught up with Nate playing golf when we learned that he loves the pit stop around the Troubadour's fifth hole, a cottage filled with every temptation you can imagine. Jars of candy, top shelf liquor, and a drawer of fried chicken sandwiches with pimento cheese. He points to the soft serve bar and seems disappointed when no one makes a homemade version of a blizzard. He really loves blizzards. He tells the Post, no one wants to be Walmart. I want to be Walmart. When George Carlin was around, you needed George Carlin. You needed Lenny Bruce. Now he thinks we need something else, so he doesn't push the envelope. He pulls it in. He loved comedy ever since childhood when he heard Sinbad do a bit about McDonald's and people not knowing what to order. Sinbad's punchline was, they got the same menu. The article then talks about Nate going up to Chicago, and we've talked about that in the past. Then he hits New York City, where he loaded FedEx trucks from 5 to 10 a.m. after being on stage every night. Boy, that's rough. Pete Holmes said the landscape of comedy was that 9 out of 10 comedians were going to be kind of rough. The style was you shock them, and then you kick them in the place you kick people. Pete Holmes, you're supposed to wear clean, Pete Holmes. Pete said, Canadians and college kids always loved me and Nate. Holmes says, the audience grew weary about jokes about finding the G-spot, and that meant he and Nate were a breath of fresh air and a gear shift. Mikey Day talked about how the George Washington sketch has accelerated Nate's career and said, I truly only think that would have worked so well with Nate. The dead-eye stare that he did is just so perfect. A, for George Washington, and B, just stating these dumb facts. It was just kismet. Nate says the sketch shot his career into another world. I actually enjoy politics. I don't talk about them, but I enjoy them. I don't think it's what people are coming to me for. The battle isn't with other people, but myself. I've got to fight myself. It's easy to feel self-important. I don't have a crazy take ever, so I don't get the quick hits a lot of comics get. He's got his company Nateland, and the guideposts for Nateland content, we're starting at PG, but you can talk me into PG-13. That's a good rule. That's kind of what I try to do here. His production company has ambitions beyond comedy. Why not apply clean to different movie genres? For example, horror. Let's not show someone's bones, says Nate. Romantic comedy. He says, we've had a lot of sex scenes in movies. There's not much left on the table. He has some taglines. Good, clean, scary. Good, clean, dramatic. Good, clean, action. Bill Burr said, there's people that work clean that are absolute cornballs that sound like they're doing comedy from 40 years ago. Then there's guys like Nate, whose jokes are so good you don't even realize he's working clean. Nate says of his own comedy, it's just going to be me being dumb and you can laugh with me or laugh at me. My specials are rated PG. One of them was rated G, I'll be honest with you. It's a little embarrassing. The New York Times had an article. That was just one of the articles, and check your watch. We are deep into this podcast already today, right? The second one, Nate Bargatze wants your family to stop fighting for an hour, maybe two. They cover the same beats, including the George Washington sketch. Nate says, I don't want your family fighting. There's plenty of times you're going to be fighting. So if I can be your 1 hour, you don't fight. We get the Sinbad story again. Then we get, I remember when my dad brought Brian Regan's CD at a truck stop. He said he had to pull over because he was laughing so hard. My dad's just driving in the middle of the night on the interstate, and he's like, I can't even drive because I have to get this out of my system. Then I listened to it, and it was that funny. To this day, in my head, I want someone to laugh so hard that they just have that experience. When I was younger, someone said, you always remind me of Bob Newhart. That meant not a lot of energy, not a big presence. But I was a fan of Bob Newhart. I loved his albums and his sitcoms. So I liked that. I was going to be more that person. I was way more deadpan at the beginning, and I didn't move around a lot. I never moved. Being from the South and having this accent and talking slower, I always sounded pretty different, especially when I was in New York. So I learned how to write jokes first, and I feel like I'm getting more in my voice now. I auditioned for The Daily Show, and it was down to me and Jordan Klepper. Jordan was better. I did so bad, it was a quick no. I was going to meet my buddy for lunch. I didn't make it to the restaurant before they called and said, you're fine, don't worry about it. I mean, look, I wanted it, but if you look back, it's like, man, it's really good that I didn't get that because I clearly wasn't ready for it, and I could have really shot my career in another direction. This is interesting. I didn't know this. See, there's always connections in Hollywood, and this doesn't mean Nate is bad, but just you got to understand how show business works, and it's who you know. Nate tells the Times, my management company does a lot with SNL. They have Seth Meyers, Adam Sandler, David Spade. I knew my name had been thrown around. I don't think it was anything too serious. They were just letting it sit there. Then they came to one of my shows in Vegas, and they came when I was in Radio City. The actor strike was going on, and comedians were in our own void. We didn't have anything. All that, and then it was like, you know what? We have a hosting spot in 2 weeks. And I went from, I didn't really know what was going to happen to, this is happening. My career felt like a steady climb. SNL was a big leap. I'm glad my career before it was a slow build. So you're able to handle it a little better. You know, it's all slow until it's as fast as it can be. Some philosophy from Nate. Television is chasing social media, and I don't think it should. My company's done very well on social media, but I don't make it for that. You need to make your thing in the full way and then hope that the clips go wherever they go. There's not a lot you can throw on to watch as a family. That's why Friends and Seinfeld and Ray are still some of the most watched shows. It's not because people don't want it. They do want it. They're just not being given it. The goal with the variety shows is to be able to have people come together and sit in their house and watch something dumb and silly. If you ever see a donkey perform a high diving act, put it in your set. All right, I got another one. I told you it was Nate Bargatze Day. The Hollywood Reporter. Nate Bargatze conquered comedy. Hollywood is next. We learned that in 2014, Nate was making a Jimmy Fallon-produced sitcom pilot. Nate said, when it was happening, I remember my buddy was like, this is your shot, so if it doesn't work, that's it. I was kind of annoyed by that at the time, but I think it helped me. It put a little chip on my shoulder. I thought for sure it would go. When I look back, I'm very glad it didn't, because I have a lot more control of where I want to go now, and I don't think I would have had that then. I would have been too young and not a good enough comedian or performer yet. I look back on a lot of stuff like that. Had I gotten it, my career could have gone in a different direction, and he tells the Daily Show anecdote. Hollywood Reporter, you almost had sitcoms at NBC, Fox, ABC, Netflix. Was there any kind of through line of the feedback? No, but I don't think there was a lot of entertainment made for people not on the coast during that period. They'd tell you they wanted multicams and stuff that's designed for co-viewing. Then you'd pitch one to people who aren't watching multicams. They want them because it looks good in their budget, but then they're like, well, this show's not fun. Yeah, because the show's not made for you. So it was a lot of that for a long time, but now it's shifting and everybody seems to want broader again. We have a comic, Derek Stroop, who was on my Christmas special, that he comes on the road with me a lot, and he's someone I was telling CBS, this is Kevin James. Make that show again. Just have it be something fun that everybody can watch for 30 minutes, and then you can go back to your murder show. He says, the Christmas show is the most exciting thing I've done. If it does well, that's the one thing I could see doing for an extended period of time. That would be fun, right, if this became an annual tradition. Hollywood Reporter, you worry about alienating an audience a lot. What drives that? Nate, I don't want anybody to feel bad or uncomfortable. It would break my heart if somebody thought that I thought I'm better than them. I don't want to be for everybody. I mean, that's the goal. I grew up eating at chain restaurants and I'm going to Walmart. I'm on board with selling everything to everybody. A lot of times people will be like, my comedy isn't for everybody, and there's a pride in that, but never clicked for me. I was always like, why would you not want everybody to come to your show? A little more about the Daily Show part. Nate says, I was not good. I auditioned with Jon Stewart, and I'd heard that they'd like my audition. At least that's what Hassan told me. Then I go to the Daily Show, and I'm with John at the desk. That was good. And then I had to read a John Oliver part. John Oliver uses a lot of words that I don't really know what they mean or how to say them. It was bad. And I had the suit on. It didn't fit. I looked like I was going to divorce court to get my daughter back or something. They called me before I even was back in my hotel. All right, we've heard that part already. And there's 6 more paragraphs, but I am nated out and I have to take a commercial break. So behind the scenes, if I don't take a commercial break before the 20-minute mark, the automation will force one. So let me put one by design and then we'll come back and maybe we'll do 3 sections today. You're getting your money's worth today. Be right back. Rose Matafeo has a special out on Max today. The LA Times caught up with Rose and we learned that she started doing comedy workshops at age 15. She's now 32, which means she's been doing stand-up for more than half her life. A fact she says makes her feel a panic slightly rising in my chest. She talks on stage about relatability and the need for female comics to be self-deprecating. But she says she does not come from a place of imposter syndrome. That's the one thing I don't think I have. I have everything else. Low self-esteem, terrible relationship with myself, all those things you're supposed to have in your 30s. In On and On and On, we check in with Rose after a real-life breakup where everybody from her grandmother to her housekeeper's like, girl, move on. You weren't together long enough to be this upset. She talks about chronicling her feelings in the Notes app and the surreal experience of suddenly understanding her parents better. But she's now the age they were when she was a kid. She cut some jokes from her live performances. They were jokes about Taylor Swift and Michael Jackson. Those cut for time. One of the jokes is, who has the time to get doxxed online by superfans? But a joke about the attractiveness of Waluigi from Mario Kart was obviously written and recorded before the real-world arrest of Luigi, the guy accused of shooting the United Healthcare CEO. That one stayed in. Rose says, in your 20s, you almost think you kind of got it together, and now I'm staring at this next bit where you're like, yeah, but you don't know anything. And you kind of have to accept the randomness of life, where friends marry and have kids, and the generation above you gets sick and dies. She says she's always had an interest in death. The first show she performed at Edinburgh Fringe was about her own funeral and involved her jumping out of a coffin in a bejeweled tuxedo. 2 stories out of the UK today, one happy, one sad. The happy one, Strictly Come Dancing, Dancing with Stars for the Brits. They finish up their 20th anniversary year. The winner, blind comedian Chris McCausland. Chris paid tribute to the efforts of his professional partner Diane Buswell in using unconventional methods in teaching Chris how to dance. That's pretty cool. The sad story, police have found the body of a missing Britain's Got Talent star after he went missing earlier in the week. Comedian Martin Crofts had made it to the semifinals. His act involved him placing a pan on his head, becoming known as the Pan Man, and singing a song while impersonating a Dalek from Doctor Who. Police have found what they believe to be his body in the Winnie Gill Reservoir in North Yorkshire. Felipe Esparza announced a new special coming to Netflix in February, Raging Fool. In Raging Fool, Felipe explores the trials and tribulations of navigating complicated family dynamics, marriage, cultural divides, infidelity, and more. And if you're in China, I got to do this one today because of the way time zones work. But on Friday in China, the Beijinger tells us the Comedy Citadel is bringing the festive spirit to life with a hilarious live version of Family Feud. To celebrate the Dongji Festival, also known as the Winter Solstice, the Dongji Festival marks the longest night of the year and a time for family gatherings, feasting, and fun. So if you're listening in Beijing, hey, that's pretty cool. Head on over to the Comedy Citadel. Their version will feature 4 teams or families, and they will battle it out to answer survey questions just like the TV show. However, there's a twist. You, the audience, Beijing listener, you'll be the one providing the answers. That means every response could turn into a hilarious surprise. And that is your comedy news for today. Before we go, I just want to get in front of something. So, holidays coming up. I will have an episode for you every single day, just like always. I'm not going anywhere, but I just want to be fair to myself and fair to you. Some of the episodes are pre-tapes. For example, December 27th, 8th, and 9th, pre-tapes. Top comedy specials of the year. January 1st, I will air the interview I did on the Letterman podcast. I'm the guest on the Letterman podcast tomorrow if you want to hear it then, but I'm using that as the January 1st episode. Christmas Day, I already pre-taped it. So as part of that, I just want to get in front of it. So if you're like, hey, how come he's not talking about Nate Bargatze's special? Did he not watch it? I'm just on tape a little bit more than usual, through the end of the year. That's all that's going on here. Just wanted to deal you straight. I'm about to record Friday's episode. Johnny Mac's taking some days off. I appreciate you. Thank you for listening. See you tomorrow.